What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another test using the Square Golf launch monitor here. In today's video, we're going to go through a little bit of a rare and kind of particular question, but I have seen it once or twice. We're going to try the best that I can to test out and answer the question if you can use a permanent, aka permanent tee with the Square. So some people, I do have the option here. Maybe you guys can see it on this 5x4 mat that I used to use. There's 3 holes on each side, so some people do like leaving a permanent rubber tee in there. The Country Club Elite also has that. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. One, I feel like it would kind of get in the way a little bit. Yeah, you could have it there and then hit here, and I could do it there too. But personally, I just put the tee down and move it. So there's nothing kind of catching my eye, worried about making contact with it or anything. But we're going to try. I'm going to try my best to kind of simulate a permanent tee and see if the Square will still pick up shots basically with a tee kind of in its field of view. I'll try to move it around a little bit, see if there's any rhyme or reason, if it'll possibly work. But I believe there was one particular person on the Square Golf USA Facebook group. Apologies, I forget your exact name, but he was asking, he has one of those contraptions where you put like 100 balls in it and there's like a foot lever and it brings down the ball and puts it on the tee. He had one of those and he leaves a permanent tee in there. He was wondering if he could still use the Square. I think he bought a Square, so maybe he already figured this out by himself. But for anyone else out there that was curious if you can use permanent tees or not, I'm going to try to do it. So we'll start off. I guess I'll preface this by saying initially I came out here, this is my 3rd video of today doing some testing. I initially came out seeing if I could continue doing some testing with the Square of getting it to read better. Basically, go check out that video. It was a longer one, but basically the cliff notes were pretty much driver. If you're hitting driver, you have to have driver selected. Anything else, it helps if you have the club selected, but you just need to have anything besides driver selected. And the main takeaway from that was I tried a bunch of different things. I tried adding additional tape. I tried turning the lights on and off. But the biggest thing so far that I found, which I still have it set up that way, is I raised up the unit and my entire shank tank by just over 3/4 of an inch. So it was like 0.81 something inches. It was 13/16, I believe it was, of an inch. Basically 3/4 of an inch. I have a board underneath the Square and I raised it up. It seems like I was getting a lot more consistent reads with the Square a little bit above the hitting mat, which is some people have suggested half an inch, even 2 inches. But for me, it seems like 3/4 of an inch is doing the trick for now. So I did just want to preface that by saying I did try to change things around a little bit. So whether this test will be affected by that, same thing. I just tested the using the black tees versus the white tees, if that made a difference. Did kind of get to the conclusion there was a couple no reads with the white tees, so I do think the black ones are preferred. So we're going to start with that, and what I'm going to do is select. I'm just going to hit some pitching wedges. I think the 5% ball is still selected, so I'm not super concerned about the numbers that I'm getting. It's more so a test of if the ball will actually read and the Square will read with the tee kind of in the way. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to go down here and select pitching wedge. The reason why I mentioned the ball is I have to do some more testing with the new software version and the new firmware version. If I think when I'm hitting it well, it's a little bit warmer in here today, which is nice, but I've already taken a bunch of swings, so we'll see. But if I come out here fresh and I'm hitting the ball well, if I feel like the 5% ball is good distance-wise or the 10%, I don't know if the firmware or the update changed any of that. But let's get into the permanent tee test here. So I'll try to move around this tee location a couple different ways, but we'll put it here. We'll see if this will even register the ball with it in the way. All right. So if you guys can see, maybe from your angle it's a little bit tougher to see. I have the tee here kind of set to the side, and I have the ball kind of a little bit more diagonal. It did pick it up. It did register. If I move this to where that's more in line with it, and I put it right behind it, it does look like it's blocking the field of view as far as the ball goes. If I move it up a little bit, now it's too far forward. If I move it behind it, so it does pick it up there too. Let's see if we have it. So right there is pretty much, yeah, so it is blocking it. If it's like, again, the Square is in front of me. The way it's designed, you have to be offset to the back. When I have the ball directly behind the tee, it's not able to find the ball. but if I move the tee slightly like that, it is able to pick it up. So let's see. I would assume if it's locked onto the ball, it'll register the shot. Maybe so far without even hitting a shot. If you're a permanent tee user, maybe you'll just have to adjust where you have that tee. Obviously, it would need to be, if you're using it, in the hitting range, and then move your ball elsewhere. But the tee is there. Let's hit a couple shots. Oh, that was thin and right, but it did register. We got all the club data. Not the best pitch and wedge shot in the world by any means, but that did work. So for the sake of this, is this where? Might as well put it to where. So that's in the zone right there. That's where you would have it if you were teeing it up. If I put it here, that is registering, so at least I have it to where the tee is in the location where if you were to tee it up, you would be able to hit from there. Now I have the ball a little bit there, so they're both in the hitting zone. And again, it's locked onto the ball, so it should be able to work. So 2 for 2 so far. If I go further back in the hitting zone, again, I moved it around just a little bit. Yeah, so right there, that should be in the zone. That's blocking it by the tee. That's in the further up in the zone. I did move this around a little bit when I readjusted things and I put the board underneath, so it's not perfect. Usually I align it to where right in here where I hit from is the dead center of that hitting zone, so I have it a little bit messed up. But we're locked back in. The tee's still there. And I mean, it works. Again, this may not be the best test in the world, so that one's a little more in front of it. That would be out of the hitting zone, but that's a little bit more like directly behind it, and it is still reading. Because I don't use a permanent tee, it's kind of tough for me to simulate it. But oh, that was chunky. But we're getting readings every time. It's picking up the club data. It's picking up the ball. It's registering the shot. Seems like black rubber tees, if you're using a black permanent tee, that doesn't seem to matter. And as long as you have it adjusted correctly and you have it, the square hitting area is kind of small, so you have to do some fine tuning, but it does seem like it'll work. If your permanent tee happens to be white, which I wouldn't suggest, again, recommend getting black tees, but in this case, if it is white, we'll start where that's in the hitting zone. So now we'll move this back here. That's directly behind it, so it's not liking that, similar to the black. If I move it up, now it's locked in. We'll see if the white tee messes with it at all. That was a bit thin, but it did pick it up with, again, this tee being in the hitting zone. So for driver, you would be able to have it there and you would be able to hit from it. And then if you're hitting an iron shot, back there is either out of the hitting zone or the tee's in front of it, so it's messing with it. There is on the corner of the hitting zone, but it is locked in. Try 1 or 2 more. I mean, again, this is so close to the... All right, so that one missed it. Again, I put the ball in first, then I put the tee. I kind of had a feeling that would happen. Granted, you would probably want the tee to be the whole point of the permanent tee is you don't move it. So there would be good. You leave the tee there. It's locked in there. And it is picking it up. So without sitting here and making this video longer than it has to be, I would say, based on my testing here, the white and the black doesn't make a difference. You can, in fact, use a permanent tee with the square. So for whatever reason, if you're set up the way you have it and the way you like it, requires you or you like having a permanent tee permanently there, so you can just put your ball down. If you have one of those contraptions, you have a ball that drops here, you can hit driver, If you're not hitting driver, you just move it like this, and you get it to where the square locks in on it. You can definitely still hit shots if you want to use a permanent tee. So hopefully some of you out there that like using that or are curious about it get some value out of this. Quicker video as opposed to some of the other ones, but maybe that's good. I don't know if some people like the super in-depth ones anyways. So pretty quick, definitive, easy test. From my testing, my conclusion is yes, you can use a permanent tee, but again, maybe your results may be different, and who knows, again, if this newer firmware, the new software, maybe that has anything to do with it. Maybe the fact that I have the square raised up, maybe that works a little bit better as opposed to having it back down to flush with the hitting surface. Maybe you wouldn't like these permanent tees quite as much. Don't know, but black tees seem to work fine. White tees seem to work fine. So I would give you guys the A-OK, the thumbs up, and the go-ahead if you want to set up. If you're looking to build something out or possibly add a permanent tee to your setup, I would say that based on this, everything would work fine. So let me know down below. Comments, questions, concerns, recommendations, any other kind of one-off type of rare tests that you maybe want to see with the square. Happy to test anything out. But like always, shout out to the members that have joined the channel. Really appreciate the additional support. Would really appreciate if any of you guys out there that are watching would consider doing that. But like I always leave you guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next video.